Welcome to this Killick Explains video, and you won't be surprised to know, welcome to the results of another one of my polls. This time I asked the question, what is the best way to go about investing? Regularly, via a lump sum, or a bit of both? And I gave the answer, I don't invest, as an option for those people who are new to all this. So here are the poll results. Then I want to talk through basically the differences between the two approaches and when you might choose one over the other. So to the poll results. How would you choose to invest? Those people who thought regular investments make the most sense, perhaps on say a monthly basis, were 33% of respondents. Then I offered people the chance to say, actually, I prefer lump sum investing, and that was 19%, near enough. Then there was a group of people who said, I do a bit of both, and I'll come back to this in a moment. That was the winning result, if you like, at 46%. And finally, 2% of respondents said, I don't invest, and therefore have little interest in the answer. But I'm glad to say that 98%, if you like, are investors. They recognise that staying in cash in anything other than an emergency situation is unwise. Over the long term, the stock market has proved its worth when it comes to generating inflation-beating returns. But how to go about it? Now, I just want to talk about these different approaches for a moment. Regular investing certainly has its place. That was, as I say, 33% of respondents versus lump sum 19%. But actually, let's just take a look at that for a moment. The reality is that if markets, as in stock markets, rise fairly consistently and persistently over time, as they've done, with some big dips over the last 10 years or so at the time of making this short video, then actually a lump sum will do better. And that's simply because your money is invested at the start of the period you're looking at, and compounding has a greater opportunity to take effect over that time span on the whole lump sum. And should your investments pay dividends whilst you're invested, those can be reinvested, and that, as many studies have shown, is a very powerful way over the long term to increase your investment returns. So a very simple example, if I invested £12,000 now at a 5% growth rate, that is not guaranteed, it's purely illustrative, over 5 years, using simple compounding, I would have around £15,315 after 5 years. Were I to drip that money in instead at, say, a rate of £200 per month over that 5-year period, so that I invested £12,000 in total, at a growth rate of 5%, I would have around £13,618 after 5 years. Why the lower amount? Well, for the simple reason that if markets track up all the way through the investment period, which of course is not guaranteed, the lump sum invested at the start does better because all of it can earn that 5% growth rate, whereas only a chunk of it can earn the full 5% on a drip feeding basis. Now, before people say, well, in that case, I should be a lump sum investor, let's just consider why in practice an awful lot of people are regular savers. And I'm going to put some numbers on this in a moment, but first of all, some pragmatic points. First of all, if you are a regular saver, you can basically do it through an app, for example, robo-investing, and it's a kind of set it up and forget it type approach. Once you are doing monthly regular savings out of income, let's say, you don't have to worry about playing catch up towards the end of the tax year, 5th of April, and largely you will adjust your spending to take into account the fact you're saving. So it's quite a nice systematic way to do it. And from a cash flow point of view, as I say, it saves you scrabbling around if you're the kind of person that does it through individual savings accounts, scrabbling around for the money at the end of the tax year when you may not have it available. But actually it carries another benefit. In volatile markets, and stock markets can be volatile, you get the benefit of something called pound cost averaging, which, to put it simply, is the fact that if you are a regular saver, you are buying on the dips quite often. Your money is invested at points when shares or units in funds are cheaper. And over the long term, that can be quite beneficial. For example, were you to take a lump sum of £1,000, let's say, as the illustrative table reveals, and invest it in a lot of units or shares at £5 each, you'd get 200 of them. If prices subsequently dip before recovering back to the original £5, then you will still have 200 units or shares. Not a bad result, but somebody who chose to actually drip in 4 lots of £250, taking account the fact that unit prices have dipped, will ultimately end up being able to buy more units or shares because at certain points they're cheaper, and over the same cycle will end up with 300 units or shares. So pound cost averaging in volatile markets, and let's face it, markets are often volatile, can seem like a more comfortable systematic approach, and one that can actually generate greater wealth in that market environment. Now the reality is that at certain points in time we might use both. So for example, I am a regular saver out of my income, my salary if you like. I set aside an amount which I can then forget about. It goes into a simple investing app and it compounds over time, I hope, because that app spreads it over a range of equity-based funds. And that is a very simple way for me to not have to remember to do regular saving and hopefully get some benefit from pound cost averaging. But occasionally lump sums will come in from various sources. It could be a little bit of bonus. It could be, who knows, a bit of inheritance. There are tax rebates and so on sometimes. And those I will happily invest. If I'm feeling nervous about the market, I might drip them in, but on a sort of accelerated basis over a few months, let's say. Or if I'm taking a long-term view, on the basis that stock markets have tended historically to rise over time, I might be comfortable to just commit that money to the market straight away, either by sort of boosting the amount I invest through an app or by committing it another way via a managed account, for example. So what are the conclusions from all of this? The conclusions are there is no absolutely right way to invest money. Lump sums can work for some people in certain circumstances, but often for those people who've only got a small amount to invest on a regular basis, a systematic, regular savings approach will be the one that actually suits them more often than not. And for those people who don't invest, as I say, I'd just issue that note of caution that presumably that means you may be leaving money idling in cash, and over the long term that's not a great place to be when it comes to beating inflation. Now, to find out more about some of these topics, please do access my fairly comprehensive video library, Killick Explains, and that is killick.com/learn. And if you'd like to receive a copy of my guide, How to Invest in Equities, then do please ping me an email, editor@killick.com.